Adefila, and I'm going to be speaking to us this morning on the topic leading in challenging times. Leading in challenging times. I have some slides on the screen which are designed to help us follow along easily as I talk on various topics and subtopics. So again, my name is Kunle Adefila. We are looking at leading in challenging times. Why challenging times? To start with, let me just give a brief overview. Why challenging times? You know, the world we live in today, if there's one word that aptly describes what is going on around us, whether culturally, economically, in every form, that word will be uncertainty. That word will just be uncertainty. There's so much uncertainty. There's turbulence globally. And because of the interconnectedness of nations and businesses, when something happens in Russia, in Ukraine, or the US, it affects us in Nigeria. The rate of the dollar, the rate of the yuan, it affects us. Everything is interconnected. We live, as they say, in a global village. And so the macroeconomics, microeconomics indicators all around, they are in flux, a state of flux. That means they're constantly changing. The variables are so dynamic, you can't project for long what is going to be happening. And that is why a lot of leaders today are working with short-term goals. Yes, they have their long-term goals, but they concentrate on achieving immediate short-term goals. And then they develop a lot of agility, ready to be flexible and shift if there needs to be a shift. A lot of us have witnessed those things in the past 2 to 3 years since COVID started. There's a lot of flux. So at times like this, the right word is uncertainty. Another word is challenging. The business terrain is challenging. Nations and businesses need leaders that can inspire confidence. Because in the kind of environment we are working in, confusion easily creeps in. Chaos is present. People are nervous. They're wondering what is going to happen next. Jobs are not so certain. And yet we have to move on. And the good news for me is that in the midst of all this crisis, I see some organizations thriving. And I love something. Many years ago, I learned that the Chinese word for crisis is a combination of two things in English. It means that there's trouble and there's an opportunity. The Chinese word for crisis, if translated into English, means trouble plus opportunity. So wherever there's trouble, there's also opportunity. So while businesses are closing, businesses are also rising. While people are losing their jobs, like we said in the February discussion, when we had a panel discussion and I was also present, I was opportune to be here. One of the things I learned is that according to Forbes, 500 new billionaires emerged worldwide. And that has been the greatest number since they started tracking these things. That has been the highest number ever. And it happened at a time of great chaos. When businesses were closing down, people were losing jobs. We had the highest number of billionaires emerge worldwide. That means truly there are opportunities. So we need leaders that can inspire confidence. Leaders that can project that they know what they are doing and they know where they are going. Leaders that have transformational thinking, that can spot opportunities. They can identify opportunities and they can lead others to capitalize on those opportunities. So that while others are mourning, these leaders and their organizations are able to move forward. So the discussion is going to span for a total of about 30 minutes. In 30 minutes, I'm going to round up and then we'll leave between 10 to 15 minutes for questions and answers because by 12, this class will be closed. So let me just move to the next slide so that you can follow the discussion even as I take it. Why challenging again? Everywhere is chaotic and unstable. We have new rules and dynamics. There's a new status quo. There are great opportunities and losses. Great initiative and response is needed. How do you cultivate these things as a leader? Some of the questions we'll have to tackle as leaders in the workplace, leaders of businesses, leaders of units, potential leaders, leaders working for somebody, leaders running their own enterprise. Some of the questions we'll need to ask ourselves in order to forge ahead is, am I going to be leading, or am I just going to be coping, barely surviving? Am I satisfied with coping, or I want to lead? I'm inspired and challenged by the news of people doing great things in the midst of the chaos. This is a question each and every one of us will have to answer, and it will shape how we think and the actions we take going forward. Number two, what can we learn from events going on around us? Can I be inspired? Can I borrow a leaf? What does it tell me? What does it reveal to me about my business and my modus operandi? What do I need to change? What do I need to adopt? Number three, how do we cut losses? Number four, how do we identify and tap into observable opportunities all around? Number five, how, and this is very important, how do we engage and motivate our employees? Because the environment seeps into people. It's very easy for all the bad news, all the chaotic information, everything to seep into the psyche of the people around us. And if you're not careful, they carry that attitude to work. So how do we engage and motivate our people? This is a time when leaders need to build close rapport with the people around them and try to get a hold on how we think and function as an organization. This is a time to be in charge, to be deliberately in charge of the culture, of the orientation, the mentality of our people, to ensure that it is positive, it is upbeat to some extent, it is dynamic, it is fluid, it is agile, and it's able to move on in a progressive manner. And then number six, how do we remain mentally strong as individual leaders? How do we remain mentally strong? Because if you're not mentally strong, if you receive shocks, you may break down, you may give up. Even some of the billionaires we admire that we're talking about, if you read about them, every day you will hear that somebody lost 3-point-something billion overnight. Somebody lost $2 billion overnight. Somebody lost 4 billion naira. There was a time I think they said that they lost 8 billion naira overnight. It's not for the faint-hearted. It's not for the faint-hearted. Somebody can collapse and have a heart attack. How do we remain mentally strong so that even if we receive shocks to the system, we're able to be resilient, to be agile, to forge ahead, and not to break down in the midst of it all? These are some questions we hope to answer to some extent within the little time available to us. Let's look at 5 principles that we must adopt in these challenging times. And if time permits me, I will throw in a few, maybe 2 additional ones as extras. But let's start with 5 core principles that we need for leading in challenging times. Number 1 is that, Dele, please, could you help me click on the next button? Thank you very much. Number 1 is that we must provide clear direction. The leaders that will thrive today and the organizations that will thrive must have leadership that provides clear direction. Because of all the chaos around us, leaders today must be able to give direction. And what this does really is that it makes people have a sense of control. If in the midst of all the chaos, the uncertainty, the turbulent news going all around, you have an idea that we know precisely what we are doing, we are confident of where we are going, there's somehow that it instills a sense of control in the people around you. There's somehow it makes your team feel like we're in charge, we're on top of the game. And that is why good leaders, right from time, whether in times as chaotic as these, or at regular times, they have learned to provide clear directions. They set goals and they communicate those goals, not in ambiguous terms, but in very clear terms. They come back, they reiterate. So they said, these are the goals. Periodically, they send information to clarify the goals. They have meetings to break down the goals. They monitor, they come back, they repeat, they check, they make sure that people are following. They don't, at this time, more than ever, your monitoring needs to be closer and tighter. If before you used to have review meetings, strategy review meetings once in 3 months, you need to do it once a month. You need to have unit meetings. If you used to have them once a month, you need to do them once a week. In some situations, and I know what I'm talking about, you may need to do them as often as 3 times a week. They don't need to be necessarily very long. They don't have to be 2-hour, 3-hour meetings. They could be 15 minutes, 30 minutes. A strategy I learned from some gurus in the past and I adopted when I was working in the financial sector and I was leading some teams in some very challenging business environments was that if you want to get straight to the point, have a meeting standing up. By the time you have meetings sitting down, people are strolling in, how you doing? So what's on the agenda? You know, you are so comfortable. There's the tendency to drag and drag. But if you want to get straight to the point, finish in 15 minutes or 10 minutes or 30 minutes, let everybody stand, no seats. That way you go straight to the point. Everybody feels on mission. What am I talking about? We need to have regular reviews of our stated goals to make sure that we're on track. How do you provide clear direction? You must observe and analyze. What is obtaining in the business environment, in the macro environment, in the micro environment? What are other businesses in the industry doing? What is the body language of government? What policies are government pursuing? And the things I'm saying are very routine and understandable to people that have been leading in major organizations where we discuss strategy on a regular basis. For some others leading small businesses, I'll take time to break it down. It means that you can't just focus on your own business activities alone. You've come to realize that what is happening in the business environment around you, in the economic environment, it affects your business. Therefore, as a business, it's not enough to pray. Check your business and your employees. You must listen to what is going on in your environment and understand how it affects your business, how it could potentially affect your business. Observe and analyze. What must we do? What must we change? An example came to me yesterday. I was on LinkedIn and I read an article by Professor Ndubisi Ekekwe. I hope I got that surname right. He is a tech guru. He speaks in business schools around the world and he's been recognized by many institutions globally. He runs Tekidia. I'm not holding brief for him. He doesn't even know me personally. I don't know him personally. Tekidia Mini MBA. It's an online MBA, and it brings in top leaders, global leaders in Nigeria and outside to speak in that program. Recently did something. He's been having what we call College Boost, which is an 8-week business administration program to open the eyes and enlighten people in our higher institutions and give them a strong business orientation. Now, because of the ASU strike that is going on, many people have been sympathizing with the students and say, hey, this is tough, this is challenging. Some others just simply move their children overseas. Ndubisi looked at what he had on ground. He looked at the need in the environment. He thought innovatively, what can I do? Guess what? He has brought the College Boost program and made it available to Nigerian students that are not in school at present. It crashed the price to 10,000 so that it's affordable. And for 10,000 naira, people, remember again, I don't know him, he doesn't know me personally. But I'm so impressed with what he is doing. is offering an 8-week world-class MBA to Nigerian students at the price of 10,000 naira. He's so creative. He has got organizations to sponsor various institutions and individuals. He is adding value in the midst of a crisis rather than lamenting. You must observe and analyze. Number 2, when you've observed and analyzed, you prioritize. I'm talking about providing clear direction. You prioritize from the things I've observed, which ones are most critical to me. And then number 3, set clear goals. After setting clear goals, communicate those goals with clarity to your team. Leave no room for ambiguity. Don't assume at any point in time. Don't let that thing, there's a way that society seeps into us. And there are some things people say that kills business excellence. People say things like, well, they're supposed to know. Well, are they not adults? They should know. That's an assumption. In business, if you want to thrive, you don't leave room for assumptions. You make sure that you sit down with your team, you drill down to the basics. You get feedback from them to ensure that they understand what they're saying and they are following. Because if you assume, that assumption could cost you a lot. Number 2, you must develop personal agility. As a leader, develop personal agility. Agility is described as the ability to quickly respond in situations. The ability to quickly respond. I want you to imagine a truck, a big truck on a narrow road. A big truck on a narrow road. And then that truck suddenly realizes that the truck driver realizes that he has to make a turn. It's going to be difficult. Go forward, go backward. They could spend an hour there. But if you have a small car that is built to adapt, to be flexible on such a narrow road, in one smooth turn, that car will turn on that same road and will continue along its journey. Businesses need to learn to be nimble. They need to build agility. But not only businesses, leaders must build what we call personal agility. The ability to think in a fluid manner, to quickly adapt and respond to changes. How do you develop personal agility? We are moving quickly. These are deep topics. But, in a 30-minute program, the best you are doing is to give an overview and provide insight, which people can follow up on. Number 1, you need to adopt a growth mindset. A growth mindset. The knowledge of today may not serve today and definitely is not likely to serve you tomorrow. So the fact that you are a guru and you understood things and you are on top of your game yesterday does not mean you should not keep learning. And that's why I celebrate everybody on the platform today, because we're all leaders in various ways, in various places, but we know that we still need to constantly learn, to sharpen the saw. Adopt a growth mindset. Constantly grow, constantly borrow ideas, constantly develop yourself. Number 2, embrace change. According to Heraclitus, a sage in times past, he said that change is the only constant. Wise leaders, agile leaders, embrace change. They are not slow to respond. They embrace change. They know that it must come, and it's the only thing that produces progress. So they have learned and programmed themselves to embrace change and to move with it. Number 3, jump out of your comfort zone. Jump out of your comfort zone. Stretch yourself. Take time out. Do the unusual. Try new things. Number 4, lighten your load. Periodically, you need to sit down. I had to do this sometime recently. I started some things in a new organization, apart from my KGL Prime Consult, where I am a management consultant. And after the initial months, where I was involved in a lot of activities, I had to sit back and tell myself, if you are going to move forward to the next level, I can no longer be encumbered with these routine activities. So yes, I took hold of them at the beginning in order to set the pace. But then at a point in time, I had to delegate to capable men and women around me who had seen the pattern we wanted to adopt and the direction we were going. take charge, and I'm not even looking back. I trust you. Move with the flow. And then the next thing I now do, because if you don't lighten the load, you will not have the time to do the most critical function of a leader, and that is thinking. You'll be encumbered and dragged down with routine activities. And once that happens to you, you cannot see the future. You cannot preempt situations. You cannot analyze critically. And you cannot provide the needed guidance, leadership, and direction that you need to provide for your people. The most important function of a leader, I repeat, is to think and not to be running helter-skelter all over the place. You may need to do this once in a while, but don't let it become the pattern. Number 5 on this list is constantly review and improve. And I'm going to move on to the next slide because of time. Number 3, be innovative. As a leader, we need to be innovative. Now, we need to be innovative as leaders. And there's a lot of confusion around innovation. I used to take that topic. I've taken it severally, creativity and business innovation in various places over the years. And I discovered that there's a lot of confusion. People often mix up creativity with innovation. They use them interchangeably. Now, while they are two related words and processes that go together, they are not one and the same thing. And the less clarity you have about an idea, the less effective you will be with that idea. The greater clarity you have, the higher the ability to be effective in that area. Creativity has to do with idea generation, generating ideas, while innovation has to do with the implementation of those ideas. That is why a person may be creative, very good at generating ideas, but the person may not be good at executing, implementing the ideas. And that is why sometimes, as a leader, if you understand this, you will learn to appreciate some people in your organization that may be good at idea generation, but not at execution. And then what you do is to support them with people that are very practical with execution. And you can leverage on the capabilities of both and merge them. But as a leader, as best as possible, you nurture both competencies in yourself and in your people. Customers will pay for 3 things: value, convenience, and speed. Value, convenience, and speed. And that is why the tech companies, the fintech companies, all those companies that have been lending people money on phone at 30% interest rate, that is why they've been selling in our business and in our environment. The rates they're offering is astronomical, but yet people are running to them. Why? They offer value. They offer convenience. People would go to banks and wait for 1 or 2 weeks to get a loan. Now, in less than 5 minutes, in the comfort of your home, on a Saturday or Sunday, you can get a loan right there on your phone. Convenience. They offer speed. Instead of 1 week, and then you have to be following up with an account officer. How far? And they tell you, don't worry, we are trying to get approval. Just be praying. Now, speed. Within minutes, and with a lot of privacy, you get your loan. And that is why people are ready to pay as high as 20%, 15%, 30% interest rate per month, as opposed to the cheap rates that the banks offer. Because customers will always pay for 3 things in a business: value, convenience, and speed. So as a leader, you want to ask yourself, in these challenging times, how do I build further value, convenience, and speed into my products and services? That is something you must dwell on and you must resolve in order to move forward. Some innovation strategies, quickly, is one, because when you say innovate, some people understand, some people bandy the word, but lack practical solutions as to how to actually sit down and innovate. So I borrowed a few that we can quickly share here. One of them, and very simple one, is copy someone else's idea. Borrow somebody's idea and implement in your own business. Now, I'm not talking about stealing a patent. There'll be scenarios where it could be termed stealing. There are scenarios where some things are in the public domain and nobody can say you stole. Henry Ford, for instance, when he invented the first motor car, the order for the vehicle was so much that it could not meet supply. The process of assembling one single vehicle was so slow. And then Henry Ford realized there's a problem. I've invented the car, but I cannot meet demand. And this is business. It's not just about inventions alone. So he started ruminating. He left the people. He created time to think. He did something. He went outside of his immediate environment. He knew some ideas. He went to look at other places. One day he went to a meat packing industry where they kill cows, beef, bulls, and they package them and they put them, I'm talking about automated setting, on assembly lines, an assembly line. And the beef is hung from a hook and is moving from one person to the other, from one team to the other. It gets to this team, they skin it. It moves to the next team, they gut it and remove the entrails. It moves to the next team, they brand it and all that. An assembly line, and something lit up in his head. He went back to his car manufacturing factory. He got his engineers, they installed assembly lines. He borrowed the idea from a beef meat packing, manufacturing and packing firm industry. Installed assembly lines in his motor manufacturing industries, and it led to them producing cars in a faster manner, and he was eventually able to meet demand. Copy someone else's idea, sometimes from another industry or service entirely from your own. Number two, combine different concepts. Look at the smartphone, one of the greatest innovations of the 20th century, 21st century. The smartphone is not an original idea. Nothing new was invented, but a software was developed that combined various concepts: the camera, the clock, the radio, the calendar. This software and the SMS and call, which already existed in the old phones, it combined all of them and created a smartphone. So sometimes, wonder what can we combine to create additional value? Number three, use difficulties and complaints. And this is one of the most strategic ones. People that are customer service experts understand this. In organizations, people that have developed competence over the years in customer service, they leverage on this a lot. When customers are complaining and having difficulties in a particular area, it's very likely an opportunity for you to provide a solution that people will pay for, or at the very least that will make your customers happy. Amateurs in the business of customer service get frustrated when there are many complaints. Experts in the business of customer service see it as an opportunity. A lot of customers are complaining. There's something there, and they move in there, and by providing solutions, they quench the complaints, they provide a solution, they innovate, and they get more business. They use difficulties and complaints to innovate. And lastly, observe consumers. Observe your consumers. Levi jeans. Many years ago, they made the jeans, which was very plain, straight, and complete. If you understand the jeans, trouser, and skirt, it was initially created as a work garment, something tough to be used by workmen in factories. Before it evolved over the years and it became a fashion statement. And then as it became a fashion statement, at a point in time, Levi noticed by observing their customers that the more worn out your jeans looked, the more faded and worn out it looked, the more it seemed as if the hype around it increased. And they noticed that people were deliberating washing new jeans and making it look old. So what did they do? They started manufacturing and producing stone wash jeans that right from the factory, it looks faded. This is what our customers want. This is what they're doing with our product. Let's make it easier for them. They will pay for it. And they started a new line of stone wash jeans. Years later, jeans manufacturers noticed that not only if your jeans are looking worn out and white, but if it has a little tear, maybe by the knee, They say, oh, he's used it for so long. And somehow it became a fashion statement. People started cutting their new jeans at the knee. Guess what? The jeans manufacturer, so smart, started cutting the jeans for them from the factory. And now that they are tearing the jeans in all places, they are producing rags for them for the factory. So observe your customers. What are they doing with your product? What do they want? Give it to them rather than complain. Number 4, leaders that will lead today in the kind of turbulent, dynamic, and yet opportunity-laden environment that we operate in must develop resilience. They must develop resilience. Pardon me there. Resilience. Personal resilience. What is resilience? Resilience is different from agility. Agility is the ability to think and respond quickly. Resilience is the toughness to bounce back, the ability to endure and to keep on going. Resilience does not mean you are not impacted or hit by negative or adverse circumstances. It, however, means that despite the adverse circumstances, despite the knocks you receive, you're able to get back and keep on going. Such leaders inspire confidence in the people around them. Such leaders make people feel confident and bold and daring to move ahead. That yes, our leaders still forging ahead, and they also draw strength. In a situation where a leader is not resilient and easily laments, complains, and gives up, well, I don't know what to do, the people around you will also fold up and give up. We need resilient leaders. And the good news is that resilience is something that can be cultivated. It's not something that either you have it or don't have it. Everyone can cultivate. In fact, we have a little dose of it. Emotional skills, because emotional intelligence is something I also major in. Emotional skills are deposits that are within us. They are within every human being. Circumstances could kill a particular attribute. Environment could enable a particular attribute. But it doesn't mean you don't have some of it within you already. Now you can always increase that attribute by identifying and working on it. How do you develop resilience? Accept the constancy of change. Today you are up, you are down. That is the way life goes. Get back up. Just realize that change will always occur. Change will always occur. Accept it in your psyche. Develop an attitude that says, this too will pass, and you just move on. For the sake of time, I can't dwell too long. I must start rounding up. So I move on to the next point under developing resilience. Put things in perspective. Around 2008, between 2008 and 2012, when we had a global economic recession, you will all remember, a particular billionaire in the US that was into real estate, lost everything. He lost the billions. Banks took over the properties. He lost everything. And he was being interviewed by a journalist who said, you've lost everything. How do you feel? What are you going to do? The man responded and said, I have not lost everything. I'm talking about putting things in perspective. He said, what I've lost is the money, the properties, the staff. But everything that I used to acquire those things in the first place, they are still within me. The intelligence, the ability to connect with people, to attract people with skills, the internal resources. Because as an individual, you operate at every time in your workplace or business with two types of resources, external resources and internal resources. External resources are the laptops and the cars, the money and everything. Internal resources are your intelligence, your boldness, your resilience, all those things. They are inside you. The man explained that I've lost the external things, but the internal things are still there. Watch this space. I'm going to rebuild everything that was lost. Put things in perspective. When you do that, it helps you to realize that, no, everything is not lost. Some things are lost, but I can still forge ahead. I can rebuild. And it helps you to develop resilience. Number 3, focus on what you can influence. Somebody said, the key to frustration is to put so much attention and energy into things that are beyond your control, things you can't control, and you focus on them, you talk about them, you worry about them, and you can't influence them. You can't cause a change. That will lead to frustration. Smart leaders, resilient leaders have learned to take control, to focus on those things within their sphere of influence. What can I affect? Let me deal with that. I cannot determine what NEPA does, but I can determine what my generator or inverter does. To some extent, I can control and regulate that. Focus on what you can influence. Avoid frustration. And lastly, look beyond the crisis. There's this common saying in our environment, this too will pass. This too will pass. It will go. When it's a powerful tool, by the way, it may seem worn out and overused and abused in all manner of situations, but there's a lot of truth to it. When you have that mentality that this too will pass, that things come in cycles, you look beyond the crisis and know that very soon there'll be light somewhere along the line. It helps you to go on. The last item here, as I really must round up now, is back to your team. Smart leaders, transformational leaders, leaders that will thrive in challenging times and that will pave the way for their team to follow, must build rapport with the team. Time does not permit me to talk a lot about empathy. It does not permit me to talk about communicating with rapport. It does not permit me to go beyond general business communication skills to dwell on leadership communication strategies. But I must mention here that you need to build rapport with your team. Try to understand your people, try to connect with them. How? Some simple tips. Listen empathetically. Learn to listen to people as if it really matters, as if you value their contributions, as if you see them as people and not just as tools to be used. Learn to understand what is said beyond the words. In one of our business negotiation classes, I remember that in studying and preparing for that class, I think it was Chester Karas, who is regarded as one of the modern fathers of business negotiation. He said the skill to listening in a negotiation is hearing what has not been said, is hearing that which has not been said. So beyond the obvious, what are the signals, the telltale signs that you are picking? And most times people are communicating more silently, non-verbally, than they are verbally. Have you learned to develop that skill as a leader? Number 2, show a genuine interest in your people. Pause once in a while in the midst of the business and ask them, so how are you doing? So how is that matter? Sit them down in your office and say, sit down. I need to go and do this. Sit down. Give them a drink. So what is happening? How about your wife? How are you pursuing this? That accommodation? Show some concern. Show some concern. Just within a few minutes, by doing that, you connect with people at a deeper level. They come to understand that you see them as being more than just instruments to achieve a business gain. You see them as individuals with real needs. And when you connect with your people as a leader, guess what? Your people develop a kind of loyalty that cannot be purchased with a salary. A kind of loyalty that goes beyond the contract they signed with you. Number 3, be vulnerable. Be vulnerable. Once in a while, let your people see that you're also human, but that despite your humanity, you can move forward. They can connect with it. Number 4, remember to praise people publicly. Appreciate them once in a while in public and criticize privately. Reverse the order. Rather than criticize and condemn publicly and you kill their spirit, rather appreciate them publicly. Man, it's a big boost. It goes far, far beyond better, much, much better than appreciating people privately. It's a big boost when you appreciate people openly. They want to serve you. They love working with you. Appreciate them publicly. Criticize them privately. Of course, transformational leaders, situational leaders amongst us know that there may be situations that require the reverse. When a person has been a nuisance, they've been cautioned privately severally, and they have not changed, and their attitude may begin to impact negatively on others. You may need to call them to order in front of others, but don't let that become the norm in your organization. So as a leader, practice these 5 things. Learn to also handle difficult conversations. That is not on our slides, but I feel I need to mention that. In challenging times, you will need to have difficult conversations with your team. As a leader, don't be one to shy away from it. Difficult conversations expose gray areas. They expose blind areas. They help you to be on the same page with your people. Mature leaders have learned to have difficult conversations in order to move forward. And lastly, if I must repeat, practice critical thinking. Because like I said earlier, the most important function of a business leader, or of any leader for that matter, is to think. It's not to run up and down the office, up and down Lagos or Port Harcourt or wherever, or Abuja. It is to think. Yes, you may need to run around and take hold of things once in a while, but if you are doing it all the time, you are shortchanging yourself, your business, and your people of the quality of your thoughts and of ideas. You must learn to pause and to think. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to have a few minutes, as my moderator permits, for questions and answers. Please remember, I'm having this program very soon. It's Leading and Managing Organizational Change. Leading and Managing Organizational Change. It's coming up on Thursday, March 31st, between 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's a 3-hour program. It goes for 30,000 a token. And you can register with the link below in red there. https://bit.ly/KGL Prime Consult. If you click on it, it will take you to where you register and you get further details. To see more of this, follow me on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on Facebook as Kunle Adefila, and you get further information. Mr. Oladele, trying to keep in time, I humbly hand over back to you, and you can coordinate the questions and answers.
Wow. I put my hands together. That was a great one.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for the pleasure of sharing your work.